Christopher, we're hearing reports that David Cameron has been spotted in Downing Street this morning. I don't know if you're hearing that as well.
That's right, he's spotted in 10 Downing Street. I think this could be, there's an idea, it's been mooted after he quit as Prime Minister in 2016, he could end up maybe as a Foreign Secretary in the same way that William Hague became a Foreign Secretary when he was, David Cameron, I should say, was the Prime Minister. That's one idea, not confirmed, but that could be it, because of course we are hearing reports, and we're getting confirmed from Downing Street, that James Cleverly is going to be the new Home Secretary, leaving a space up there as in the role of Foreign Secretary, which could be filled by someone like David Cameron. Just an idea. We also know Junior Health Minister Neil O'Brien has quit the Health Department, so therefore we are seeing a wider reshuffle than just replacing Suella Braverman.
So just want to get the Cameron thing here. Yeah. You see, I find this very, very exciting. When we talk about statesmanship, a quality needed to be Foreign Secretary, someone with history, someone who has been Prime Minister, you actually think that could work? What has Cameron been doing with his life up until now? Is he ready for this?
He certainly, there's more in the tank, as they say in politics. He was a young man when he quit as Prime Minister. Of course, he wasn't meant to go in 2016. He had planned to serve until as late as 2018, 2019, before he would then go then. So I think he's got more to give. He's been heavily busy in dementia, Alzheimer's. There was some rows about his behaviour trying to make money, if you recall, there with some complicated financial business. That went away. There's more to give. There is a model here. If he becomes Foreign Secretary, there's a big if around this, by the way. All we know is he's gone through the door of 10 Downing Street. But this idea of becoming a kind of Lord Salisbury figure, a Lord Hague figure, of course, this kind of role of being a role on the stage as a Foreign Secretary. I should say, of course, that the idea there would be that he could do this from the Lords. That's possible. I should say, while I've been on air, Nick Gibb, who's the Schools Minister, has also resigned the government. So we're seeing spaces open up right now in Department for Education, in the Health Department, and of course the top of the Home Office.
I remember going back to the Falklands Day. Correct me, Peter Carrington was a Lord. He was Lord Carrington, wasn't he, at the time? And I'm pretty sure not an MP.
That he was not an MP, he was a Lord. I should say, of course, William Hague was the Foreign Affairs spokesman, not actually in office. But the point is, you can do that kind of high-end role. The role of Foreign Secretary, if it goes to David Cameron, again, not confirmed, were that to happen, it'd be a role which isn't really very political, because you're most of the year you're on a plane doing our work, our country's work, as our chief diplomat, in a sense. So in a sense, it would suit him, and I think he's got more to give. He didn't want to go as Prime Minister in 2016. Again, not confirmed. What we do have confirmed is other people leaving the government. Of course, we have Nick Gibb, the highly regarded schools minister. He has gone, widely credited for lifting standards in our schools over the past decade. He's been in and out as the schools minister. We also have Neil O'Brien from the Health Department. He's gone. We know that Suella Braverman has gone. And we think, not confirmed yet, that James Cleverly is the new Home Secretary. So space is opening up throughout government. This will be a much wider reshuffle than just replacing Suella Braverman.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I'm just reading Nick Gibb. I mean, we've talked to him many times on this programme, Eamon and I, and he's been in that post a long time. Just reading his tweet he's put out, over the last few weeks I've been discussing taking up a diplomatic role after the general election. To enable me to do so, I've asked the Prime Minister if I can step down from the government at the reshuffle, and he has agreed. So making it clear that he wasn't sacked. He also served, I believe, as Schools Minister under David Cameron, under Theresa May, under Boris Johnson, right, and now under Rishi Sunak. So there will be some movement. Go on.
Well, to say, I mean, I think his record in government is one of the most successful in government. He successfully implemented phonics amongst young children, lifting up reading ages and general academic ability, outpacing other comparable nations, notably Scotland and elsewhere. So he is seen as someone who's very well regarded in the whole school sector. For him to say his idea is to go to be a diplomat, that's a departure for him, but I think he goes with the good wishes of a lot of Tories who feel he's done very well in that job.
With all due respect, Chris, he's not well respected as regards concrete, is he? He missed a few opportunities there. But we hear what you say. I mean, a career educational politician looking for that diplomatic job. But Chris, tell me this. Does this mean if Braverman is sacked, do all her people, do all her creatures, do all her aficionados, do they have to go as well?
I don't know who you mean by creatures, Eamon. Do you mean colleagues? I suppose her political team would leave, certainly. The special advisors and others would leave. In terms of those below her, Robert Jenrick, he's the immigration minister. Chris Philp, of course, he's the policing minister. We don't know what happens to them. Those two are not seen, as I would see it, as allies of Suella Braverman. In fact, to a degree, Jenrick was put in there to man-mark Suella Braverman to ensure that the PM had someone who was more aligned with maybe where he sits in politics than Suella Braverman. So she was slightly on her own, a lone gunner, you might say, at the Home Office. So I don't think you can say other ministers might go to now she's gone. Certainly the team around Suella Braverman, they've all gone. All the political team have gone.
Suella Braverman, what next? Can't wait to hear what she has to say later today, how she paints this one.
Well, that's right. And what next? I mean, is she going because she knows that she's been sacked, don't forget. What about Wednesday? Well, Wednesday is this big decision by the Supreme Court on the Rwanda processing plan for illegal arrivals by over the water from France. If that is passed, then it really is a huge fillip for Rishi Sunak. Maybe the first planes can start taking off from April next year. If not, Suella Braverman will become the person who will lead the charge for the UK probably to withdraw from the European Court of Human Rights, the European Convention of Human Rights, so to give better control over our borders to our own courts here, not rely on the rulings from Strasbourg. So she'll become a major figure on the right. She's already, of course, but maybe even a major critic on the right. Next week, next Thursday, net migration figures are likely to show a huge increase again. Hundreds of thousands of people arriving here legally on the Home Secretary's watch, and maybe she'll find it hard to make remarks there against her own record. But certainly these two areas, it's a big week in Home Affairs, a big week as this Tory party tried to deliver on what it said it would do at the referendum, at the manifesto, I should say, in 2019, and also last week when Rishi Sunak became Prime Minister, last year when PM became Prime Minister.
Can we talk a bit more about the big plot twist of David Cameron this morning? I'm just trying to get my head around this a bit more. I mean, let's not forget, this is a man who campaigned very much to remain in the European Union, unlike possibly his new boss, Rishi Sunak. This is somebody who very recently said the decision on HS2 was wrong. This is somebody who was forced to deny in 2018 that he wanted to be Foreign Secretary. Lots of people were speculating that he fancied one last stab in government. And he's also got to come in to Rishi Sunak, who's talked a lot about the false consensus of the past.
Yeah, there's lots of baggage there if you're a former Prime Minister, Isabel. Of course, you're right in saying that. I do think, though, that he was privately quite Brexity. Whenever I went on visits with him to Brussels back in the early part of the last decade, it was quite clear he was pretty happy when he came home, and the joshing was certainly a kind of mistrust of the whole Brussels machinery. Almost in contrast to Boris Johnson, who was seen as being quite pro-EU, pro-Brussels, of course. So I think he, yes, of course, he did fight for Remain, but he also is the person who gave that choice to the country. And he's obviously a Democrat, and when the country voted against what he wanted, he left. I think there's a way around that. There's no question he did fight for the Remain cause. But I do think, I've always thought privately, he's quite a Brexiteer.